to actually start discussing the term ascent of sap.
Yes.
Now, probably you have learned some mathematics where you are arranging numbers in ascending order, descending order. I want to take a leaf from that. You should understand that the term ascent means getting up.
Yes.
Okay? Are you getting me?
Yes. I'm getting.
Hello? Are you able to get me?
Yes, I'm getting you.
Very clearly? Okay, so ascent of sap is a term that refers to actually the transport of water upwards. Now, when we say upwards, the water is actually coming from the roots to the aerial parts of a plant. Hello? Are you getting me?
I'm getting you.
So, it's an important concept for water transport. So don't get scared of the term ascent of sap. So when we say ascent of sap with regards to plant physiology, what we mean is the transport of water or the movement of water upwards from the roots to the upper parts of the plant. By definition, we can define it in this manner. Okay?
Yes.
So you say this is the upward movement of water from the roots to the upper parts of the plant. So we understand that water actually in a plant gets in through the roots. So there are other processes that will lie down into the roots, such as osmosis. So water will get into the roots, but the way it's going to move all the way up to the other parts of the plant will actually be referred to as ascent of sap. So ascent of sap involves a number of theories. Okay, so we are going to take a look at the theories. Okay, so as it were, there are three major theories that actually determines or explains ascent of sap. Okay, so physical theories, root pressure theory, and vital theories. In that order, we are going to look at them and take an explanation. What do they mean and how do they lead to ascent of sap? Or how will physical theories actually lead to the movement of water upwards into a plant? Okay, so for today, we are going to concentrate on the physical theories. Then in another lecture, we are going to look at a root pressure theory. Okay, are you getting me?
Right. I can get you.
You are getting me?
I'm getting you.
You are not getting me.
I'm getting you.
All right. All right. So we'll concentrate on the physical theories. What do they mean when we say physical theories and as they relate to the ascent of sap? Okay. So these theories are the ones which involve dead cells being responsible for ascent of sap. You may try to understand, say, when we say dead cells, initially, you know the xylem and the phloem.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, I know them.
Yeah. Now, the xylem consists of dead cells that there are cells that have died and created a hollow. That's why there is a vessel. Right? Okay. They are vessels. Initially, that space was supposed to be covered by some cells. Now the cells are dead. So they have created a hollow space for water to pass through. Okay. So when we say physical theory, these are theories that involve dead cells being responsible for the ascent of sap, meaning the upward movement of water. Several other theories are used to explain the physical theories, meaning from the physical theory itself, there are other sub-theories that will explain ascent of sap. One of them is imbibition theory. Okay. So the ascent of sap occurs due to imbibition activity of the cell walls of the xylem. Now, when we say imbibition activity, we are saying inside the xylem cells, there's what we call lignin. You have heard of lignin? Okay. The walls of the xylem are lignified, meaning that there's lignin that blocks the water to get absorbed into the cell walls. Okay. When you have a plant with the cell walls that surround the xylem, in order for water to be blocked to enter the cell walls, okay, there's what is called lignin. Now that is imbibitional. When we say it is actually blocking the water to enter the cells, meaning it only creates a hollow structure. Okay, so we'll be getting back to this imbibition theory at a later stage. But another theory that actually is under physical theories is the capillary force theory. Okay, now we understand the tube, the xylem, okay, through which water passes, okay, involves what we call the tracheoids. So those pipes where water passes are actually called the tracheoids, okay, as well as the xylem vessels. Now, they behave as capillary tubes. What do we mean in this case? Which means they allow water movement, okay? So water will move from these cells, okay? As they move, they'll move into tubes. So these tubes are the ones that will take the water upwards. Are you getting me?
Yes, I'm getting you.
Hello?
I'm getting you.
Okay, so these capillary tubes, because they are connected, it's a hollow all the way from the roots. It goes up to the aerial parts of the plant. So because it goes up to the aerial parts of the plant, it allows the movement of water upwards. Are you getting me there?
I'm getting you.
Now, the water will be able to, it will be forced to move upwards because there is a tube that is involved, without which water cannot actually move. Okay, so that theory also is very important. The other theory is the atmospheric pressure theory. Atmospheric pressure theory entails that the atmosphere, the pressure in the atmosphere will determine the movement of water into the plant. Okay, there is water into the plant. If water, for instance, let's talk about humidity. Okay, if water is not leaving the plant, there is no water leaving, then that water that is under the ground into the roots will not attempt to move up because the upward water is not actually leaving the plant. So the atmosphere plays a major role in ascent of water. Okay, so the theory, atmospheric pressure theory, there is what it indicates. It indicates that the atmospheric pressure must be responsible for the ascent of sound. That is a guess, of course. But as the water transpires from the leaf, we talked about transpiration area, right?
Yes, we did.
Now, at that moment when water is transpiring, okay, it reduces, okay, it reduces the pressure in the xylem. And this gap is filled by the water just below. Meaning there's water that is leaving the plant through transpiration, right? Creating a gap. As water is leaving through transpiration, it causes that other water to follow suit to leave, to get the gap. Meaning if water was occupying a space in the xylem, as it leaves the plant through transpiration, that gap must be occupied by some other water. So that water is coming from the bottom part, the roots actually. You get the point, right? So the atmosphere plays a very, very important role. If the atmosphere is going to affect transpiration, so when we say atmospheric pressure theory, it's about the nature of the atmosphere. If there is high humidity, which means transpiration will be affected. So the atmospheric pressure actually affects transpiration, right? Now, if transpiration is affected, therefore it will affect the upward movement of water. Because if it does not take place, there's no way water is going to leave the plant. Okay? So transpiration entails that water leaves the plant. Now, as water leaves the plant, it creates hollow spaces in the xylem. And those hollow spaces are what ensures that the water underneath will follow suit to occupy that space. And in that case, it will follow up and get to the aerial parts of the plant. Another theory, the transpiration pool and cohesion theory. To a larger extent, in earlier topics, we had discussed the transportation of water through the xylem. We talked about the transpiration pool and cohesion theory. Now, we understand that cohesion is the ability of water to actually attract to its like molecules. Okay. So water can be attracted to its like molecules through a process called cohesion theory. So that's what we call the theory of cohesion. Now, if water is attracted to its like molecules, as the transpiration process takes place, it is pulling the water upwards outside the plant. Now, as the water is being put outside the plant, the water that is beneath, that is attached to those water molecules, will follow suit. It will also leave. Okay? So it's more like there is a pull. The water upwards through transpiration is pulling the water that is in the roots. Okay? Without which, if transpiration does not take place, that water in the roots will not be pulled. Okay? So there is what is called a cohesion theory, the ability of water molecules to actually connect to other water molecules. Okay. Now, this theory was actually proposed by some scientists, Dixon and Joly, in the year 1894. Of course, it was supported later in 1911 and 1915 by other scientists, Curtis and Clark. Subsequently, other scientists went on to prove the theory and support it. Those are Ben and Godson, Krener, and Kozowski. They were also actually followed suit to try to actually accept the fact that the theory works. Meaning that, if I may roll you back, the theories we have discussed here, we are talking about 4 major theories. Okay? The 4 major theories are actually falling under what we call the physical theories. Okay. So, when we say ascent of sap here, we are saying the upward movement of water. To explain it, you are supposed to actually understand using 3 theories. The 3 theories are physical theory, vital theory, and root pressure theory. So for today, as I said, we are looking at physical theories. Okay, which also has got sub-theories. Number 1, as I said, imbibitional theory. Okay. Number 2, capillary force theory. The third one is atmospheric pressure theory, which we say the atmosphere has got a role to play where actually transpiration is concerned. Now, if it affects transpiration, therefore, it will affect the upward movement of water inside the plant. The 4th theory is the transpiration pool and cohesion theory. Okay. What are the features of cohesion tension theory? Because this theory that we said, transpiration pool and cohesion theory, it is also referred to as the cohesion tension theory. Okay? So, what are its features? Okay? 3 main features. There is what is called the strong cohesive force of water molecules. Now, water has got that ability to attract to its like molecules. That is a property of water. You remember when we looked at water as itself as water, properties of water, water has got the ability to attract to its like molecules. You remember it is dipole. It has got 2 ends. There's a positive end of water and there's a negative end. So the positive end of water actually attaches itself to the negative end of another water molecule. Now, that ability is actually what we are referring to, water having a strong cohesive force. So the theory is made possible by the fact that water has got a cohesive force ability. Now, imagine if water never had this force, therefore it would not be actually supporting this theory. Imagine if there was oil underground that oil cannot move upwards because it is not supported. It doesn't have this feature of cohesion, right? Now, the fact that water has got a cohesive force theory, a strong cohesive force theory, it's able to attract to its like molecules and in the process move upwards. Another feature of water is that there is a continuity of water column in the plant and tension on the water column due to transpiration pool. Of course, we have discussed earlier this term, transpiration pool. Okay. Now, these features having a transpiration pool, water having a cohesion force, are what are actually supporting the cohesion tension theory. Okay. We can move on. Still on the same theory. Okay. The same theory. We understand that there is what is called the mesophyll cells. Now, the mesophyll cells are the middle layer cells. Okay, inside the leaf, inside the structure of the leaf cell, or we can talk about the structure of the root cell. Okay, the internalmost cells are called the mesophyll cells. Now, for this case, we are talking about the leaves, because the leaves are the aerial parts of the plant. They have to ensure that water leaves in order for other water to come in, right? Are you getting me?
I'm getting
Hello?
I can get you.
Okay. So water is lost from the surface of the mesophyll cells of the leaves. Now, when water is lost, okay, it escapes as water vapor into the atmosphere, of course, through the stomata. Now, when that happens, there is a sequence of events to that theory. We are talking about the cohesion tension theory. So when you are asked to explain the cohesion tension theory, there are events that you must put across in that order. Okay? So as you explain the theory, you don't start from the roots. First of all, you have to create a space where that water that is from the roots must come and occupy inside the particular the plant. Now, for that water to move up, there must be space created. Now, for that space to be created, it means water must diffuse out to the atmosphere. So that's where you start from. In explaining the theory, the first part you say is that water vapor diffuses out of the plant. Okay? When that water vapor diffuses out of the plant, we automatically understand that they have created a space. Now,
Yes.
evaporation of water vapors from the thin-walled mesophyll into the intracellular space. Now, we have said water vapors diffused out of the atmosphere. Now, in the cells that have remained inside, they should also receive water, right? Are you getting me?
Yes.
So that's the next step. Evaporation of water vapors from the thin-walled mesophyll, okay? Or we can say evaporation of water vapor from the leaf into the intracellular space. Now, what do you call intracellular space? If I may ask you, what is an intracellular space?
I think these are the air spaces in the cell, or the spaces in the cell.
Spaces between cells, eh? So when we say intercellular spaces, they are referring to spaces that is in between the cells. Now, those spaces in between cells, they hold water. Are you getting me?
Yes.
So if they hold water, you find that when water leaves that particular cell, this intercellular space water again gets into another cell.
Okay.
Okay, so now when water has moved out of the cell, what happens next? There is reduced water content in the cell, right? Remember the process of osmosis? There is always what is called a concentration gradient. There is what is called osmotic potential. Now, when water leaves out of a particular cell, it creates what is called a potential, because in the other cell where it has left, there is reduced content of water. Okay. Now,
Yes.
this reduced content of water increases the osmotic potential and becomes low in cell sap.
Okay.
Okay. So what we mean is when water content has been reduced, which means there is also low in cell sap, right? Because whatever we are talking about cell sap here, it refers to mainly it has what is called a lot of water is involved. Okay, so cell sap contains a lot of water. Now, if cell sap contains a lot of water, at that moment, when you reduce the water content, okay, then in the other cell that is following next, there is what is called increased osmotic potential, meaning its ability to receive water has been increased, right?
Yes.
Remember that when a cell has got too much water, it reduces its ability to receive water, right?
Yes.
It's more like there is a lot of water in that cell. So therefore, there is no water that can go into that cell. Now, when there is reduced water content into the cell, what follows is that that cell that has got reduced water content has got a lot of ability to receive more water. If it has got a lot of ability to receive more water, therefore it has increased its osmotic potential. That's what we are talking about here. I hope you understand that point, right?
Yes.
Get the 2 points, number 3 and number 4. There is reduced water content into a cell. You understand that? Now, that reduced water content into a cell ensures that more water should get into that cell. Now, if more water should get into that cell, it means that that water, if it has the ability to receive more, that cell, if it has the ability to receive more water, it has got what is called increased osmotic potential. Let me get back to you, maybe for better understanding. What is osmotic potential?
Osmotic potential. I think it's the ability of a cell to gain more water.
The ability of a cell to gain more water. Now, which cell can receive more water? The one that has got reduced water or the one that has got more water?
The one which has got reduced water.
That has got less water, right? That's a point clearly there, number 3 and number 4. We said after evaporation from number 2, there is reduced water content in the cell. You understand?
Yes.
Now, that reduced water content into the cell increases its osmotic potential. You understand?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, whatever has happened, that increased osmotic potential will cause the movement of water from adjacent cells by osmosis, right? Because osmotic potential is followed by osmosis. So, if osmosis has taken place, then there is movement of water from xylem to the adjacent cell. So, to fall through, there is what is called ascent of sap, right? The movement of water up from the roots all the way upwards. So, to explain the cohesion tension theory, make sure you don't forget these 6 points, right? As they follow. Number 1, water diffuses out of the intercellular space. Then after diffusing, okay, there is what follows evaporation of water out again from the intercellular spaces, right? After that, there is reduced water content, and it follows suit that there is increased osmotic potential.
Okay.
All right. Let's look at an illustration of the events that pertain what is called the cohesion tension theory. Take a look at the diagram there. We can see that there is a palisade layer there, right? And there's from the palisade, since the palisade are in the middle, there is cuticle cells there on top. There is the upper epidermis. You can see the pointer there.
Yes.
Are you able to see the pointer?
Yes.
There on the top layer, we have what is called the upper epidermis. Now, this upper epidermis, then there is a lower epidermis at the bottom there, meaning the cells in the middle are called the mesophyll cells. Now, these cells, whether palisade, whether spongy, whatever they are, as long as they're in the middle, they are called the mesophyll cells. They are the ones which receive water from adjacent cells. Now, if water will leave these cells via whatever process, stomatotranspiration. Have you seen transpiration? If they lose water, it means the palisade cells, which are in this case called the leaf mesophyll, will eventually receive water. So take a look at the diagram. It is actually representing what is called the cohesion theory. Okay. So as water moves into the xylem and the tracheodes, okay, it continuously moves into a channel. Okay. So the other part here, there is what is called, what I mentioned earlier, imbibition. Soil water will move by osmosis. Okay. Because there's no blockage, it will move by osmosis into the roots here. Then from the root here, as we can see, it starts following from one cell to the other. Meaning this cell that has received water is different in osmotic potential to the next cell. So the other cell will receive more water. So water will follow suit. It will move according to the osmotic potential until it reaches the upper parts of the plant, which in this case are referred to as the what? The roots, the leaves actually. So ascent of sap is actually referring to that particular process in which water are moving. So take note that there is what is called imbibition. Imbibition simply means there is what is called lignin there, blocking water to be absorbed by the cell walls, right? Imagine if water was to enter the root cell or root cell here, then the cell walls of the roots absorb that water, which means that water will not continue making its movement, right? So by imbibition, we mean there is lignin that blocks the water to be absorbed by the cell walls. And when it is not absorbed by the cell walls, it remains into the xylem vessels and continue moving. Do you get the concept of imbibition now?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, there is lignin that will block the water from being absorbed by the cell walls of the roots. Imagine if the cell walls of the roots absorb the water, then the water will not go anywhere, right? So to avoid that, there is what is called imbibition. Water is blocked from being absorbed by the root cells, and therefore it will find itself in the xylem vessels and start moving by osmotic potential upwards. Now, we're calling this theory cohesion theory. It's because water molecules will attract to like molecules. So that diagram, make sure you clearly understand it. It explains it all in terms of the theory of transporting water. 5 important points to note about this theory, which we have said the cohesion theory. In order for water to move, okay, are you getting me?
Yes.
The first thing that you must look at is the potential gradient, water potential gradient. Imagine if the water in the root system was as equal as the water outside the root system. Will that water move upwards?
No.
There is a difference. There must be a difference. Meaning outside the roots, there is more water compared to the inside of the root cells. So therefore, there is what is called a water potential gradient that is created. It is that gradient that ensures that water has actually moved upwards. Are you getting me? Number 2, a strong force of cohesion. Imagine even if there was a potential gradient, but if water cannot attract to its like molecules, can it be taken up the aerial parts of the plant? Definitely not. So we understand that, say, important points that you are noting under this theory is there must be a potential gradient, yes, that will allow water to enter from the outside into the root cells, right? Then when that water has entered, it needs to continue moving. So it needs to attach to the water that is moving up. And that's called the cohesion theory, right? cohesion force. Without that force, water might not move. Of course, afterwards, we must understand that there must be a transpiration too. Even if water has entered the cells, if there's no transpiration taking place, the water will remain into the plant, and that water may not easily move upwards. So the upward movement of water is determined by the rate of transpiration. If transpiration continues, meaning water is moving out, sleeving, okay? It's more like you as a student, when you're graduating, you pave way for the others to come through, right? Okay. Now, for instance, from the time you started, if you remain in the first year, all of you as a group, you are just the first year. Would we have other first years? So you move on to the next stage in order for others to come in. So others have to graduate in order for you to occupy another level. Similarly with water, water has to move out through transpiration to pull the other molecules of water to come through, right? And that's a transpiration pull. Of course, another concept that has been talked about is adhesion. Now, adhesion creates a situation where water molecules may attach to the walls of the vessel. Okay. As water molecules attach to the walls of the vessel, you understand to say that is called adhesion, the force of attraction between unlike molecules. Now, when they attach to the walls of the vessel, it means it creates a hollow space for water molecules to pass, right? Okay, because they are sticking to the walls. So therefore, at some point, they will continuously move. So a combination of the two theories, cohesion theory and adhesion, they form another theory called the cohesion adhesion theory. Is that okay? Take note of those points, eh? Do you have any questions so far, or we can proceed? Should we proceed?
Yes.
Okay. So, as we talked about these points, water potential gradient, what does it entail? So, water potential gradient, okay, it's a kind of potential gradient that exists. That's by definition. The potential gradient that exists from the leaf to the roots and creates a transpiration too. The difference in concentration between water molecules in the leaf and the roots will create that movement upwards, meaning the leaves have got less water molecules compared to the roots. That's why water will move upwards from the roots to the leaves. And that is what we call water potential gradient. Very important point to note, as I talked about important points to note under the cohesion tension theory. So that's number one for you. Understand to say water potential gradient is crucial to the ascent of SAP. Number two, a strong force of cohesion. We have talked about the ability of water molecules to attach to like water molecules. So the water molecules have a strong force of cohesion. This I need not to overemphasize. Transpiration pool. We have talked about this. All these are factors that are ensuring that there is cohesion tension theory. Adhesion, okay? So adhesion, in simple terms, water will actually attach to the cell walls of the xylem. Meaning, if water molecules are likely to attach to unlike molecules, cell walls are not like water molecules. So therefore, water molecules will stick to the cell walls, okay? And when that happens, they facilitate the movement of water upward within the xylem. Do you understand the concept now? It's more like they have paved way, okay, for the other water molecules to pass. Imagine those water molecules that are connected together, they will only have to pass through a hollow space. Now, if there's water blocking the way, it actually sticks to the side of the walls to create a space for the passage of other water molecules. Do you understand now? Okay, so that's a theory. Now we can connect the two, cohesion theory and adhesion. A combination of the cohesive and adhesive forces. So the theory is all about, you are supposed to explain the cohesion theory, which you understand very well, and explain the adhesion theory. How do the two relate together? You understand to say cohesion theory, water molecules will attract to ferro-like molecules. When they are attracted, they need now to start moving up, but they can be blocked by other water molecules, right? Or by other things. So water molecules that now will stick to the sides of the walls, that is called adhesion, creating a hollow space for those attached water molecules to pass. Is that okay? Okay, what is the importance of this theory now? Very important in plants. As it pertains to the ascent of sap, the cohesion tension theory is very important in the following ways. Firstly, it provides, when they say the lignified cellulose, no, you know, the xylem is made up of lignified cell walls. So the lignified cell walls not only provide strength, but have a strong affinity to water molecules. You know that lignin, eh? Lignin is more like some material that occupies a space in the cell walls. Okay. So if it occupies a space in the cell walls, the lignin has got a strong affinity to water molecules. So if it is going to attract the water molecules, that is adhesion, right? You understand? That is adhesion in itself. So the lignified walls of the xylem actually contains lignin, which attracts water molecules. When those water molecules are attracted, that is adhesion force. Getting back to the previous theory that we had talked about, that includes what is called the cohesion adhesion theory. So this theory has to concentrate mostly on adhesion, where we say water molecules, through this important significance, we understand to say it will attract to unlike molecules. The other importance of this theory is that both adhesion and cohesion forces help to form thin and broken columns of water. That's a very, very clear point and straightforward. Okay? Because when water molecules have attracted to each other, they will form what is called thin and broken columns of water in the capillaries of the xylem vessels. What does this entail? It means there is what is called a transpiration pull, lifting the water column up, creating a tension. Okay? It's more like there is a tension that has been created. If this water molecule is being pulled, the other one is also going to be pulled, right? So there's what is called a tension. Hello, are you getting me? It is almost similar to the liquids being taken up in a straw. When you're drinking using a straw, you understand to say, as you are taking a straw, using a straw, water molecules will move. I mean, whatever you're drinking using a straw, it will follow suit, continue moving in a continuous flow. Okay, the other importance is the transpiration pool creates a negative pressure in the xylem. Now, the negative pressure we are talking about is that when there is pressure that has been released by water moving out through transpiration, there is negative pressure that is created in the cell walls, okay, in the xylem vessels, meaning it will allow more water to be collected from downwards and eventually leads to what is called an uptake. Now, this tension, therefore, causes a decrease in water potential. Now, as we said earlier, decrease in water potential, you know what it means, eh? When there is a decrease in water potential, it will not allow actually what is called water to move. Okay, there's a decrease. The decrease in water potential means it will allow water to come in now, not to move out, because there is a decrease in potential.
Yes.
Okay? There is a task for you. I want you to take note and try to see if you can answer those questions. Okay. Are you able to get the questions? I want to find out, are the xylem and phloem made of living cells or what? Just answer me there.
No, they are made from dead cells.
Okay, so xylem and phloem are made from dead cells, right? When cells die, they create a space because they are dead cells, right? Imagine if they were living cells. Immediately water goes in, it would have been absorbed and used up, right? Then it cannot go to the next cell, right? Now, because they are dead, it entails that the cells actually will leave way for water to allow it to be transported. Are you able to see number 2?
Yes.
What is the importance of lignin for xylem formation? And what is root pressure? So, when do you think you can manage to answer these questions?
I think I can do them just in few minutes time.
Yeah, I'll give you, after the lecture, I'll give you just maybe 20 minutes to answer those questions. Okay. Then I'll forward the answers to you so that you can confirm what you have answered, right?
Right.
Yeah. However, in the next lesson, we'll be looking at the vital theories of ascent of sap. I want us to get through to the theories so that we can get to plant nutrition, right? Okay.
Right.
So here in the next lesson, we'll be looking at vital theories of ascent of sap. Thank you very much for today. Okay. You have any questions that you may want to find out?
No, if I tend to have some questions, I can still come through.
Okay. I meant for now, did you understand what we have gone through?
Yes.
Okay, okay. So in case you need some notes, I can still send them to you.
Okay.
I'll send the notes over at a later stage. And I hope you have written down, taken note of something. But I want you to answer those questions. Then I'll need them in 20 minutes time.
Right.
Okay, thank you very much.